I'm going to go ahead and kind of get us warmed up. But it's so good to see these welcome messages in the chat. Welcome again, and good afternoon, good evening for all who are joining. Good morning for some of us. I know we're coming from a lot of different times, so welcome everyone. This will be available in a later slide as well, but I wanted to share this information at the start of today's meeting. It's not even a meeting. This is a fun event. I get too comfortable with using Zoom slang. At the start of today's event, you can join via translations. So you can have a spoken translator or a captioned for your translating for Bengali speakers. So I will put this in the chat as well. The QR codes will take you there, but the links in the chat will as well. And that will be live translations throughout this event. So please feel free to use these. We also have English captioning. So if you prefer to see written English, that's available as well. All right. So we're going to do some quick trivia just to get our brains moving this afternoon. Does anybody know who this is? We've got some really powerful women in STEAM coming your way. So if you can guess who this is, you get some major bonus points, and type them in the chat if you think you know who this is. Okay, this first one will be a freebie. Let's see who this one is. Does anybody recognize her name? Have you heard of her before? This may be a new name then. So we have some really powerful and impressive women in STEAM for our trivia today. What about her? First female doctor. Yep, Sarika, that was right. Does anybody recognize her? This is another really impressive doctor from Bangladesh, and a more modern doctor. So we had the first doctor and then a more modern one. What about her? I'll give you a hint. She's not from Bangladesh. So she's the first female doctor from Vietnam. And just a few more women to get us inspired this afternoon. So this is another more modern doctor, and she did a lot of work with the COVID research and COVID vaccines. So someone who's really active currently. And then this might be our last one. First female doctor from India. So some really, really impressive women. Oh, we got one more. I lied. So this, I think you should absolutely look up more about Dr. Farhana Sultana. She is amazing. And she's another like modern thinker, modern doctor, meaning present day. And she's really, really, really cool. So just some really incredible people to think about and inspire us as we go through today's event. So welcome again to all who have joined recently. We're so excited to have you all here. I'm Hallie, and I'm joined with Girl Bangladesh, female and girl leaders from Bangladesh in general, and my colleague Ali. So we'll get started. For those of us who did not see this earlier, I'll put it in the chat as well, but we do have translation services available. So you can scan these QR codes and get live translations, or you can click the link in the chat. We have Bengali, both written and audio, and then we have written English. So please feel free to use those. If you have any issues with the translation or the captioning, maybe you're not seeing it, but you would like that service, just let us know in the chat and we'll support you. All right. Some housekeeping rules as we get started. When we're in this main room, you've already got it perfectly done. We'll keep on mute, and then if you want to turn your cameras on, by all means, please do. When you head into your breakout rooms, that is the place to unmute and share your thoughts, provide feedback, chat with each other. In the meantime, when we're in this main room, feel free to use the chat for that. Again, I'm Hallie. It's so nice to meet you, and I'm joined with my colleague, Allie. We're here to support you throughout the entire event, so just send us a message if you need anything. And then, of course, we have our lovely Girl Up girls from Bangladesh so that they can all give a wave to say hello. I'm so grateful for these girls and so many others who have put together this event. They've brainstormed this, they've created it, they've brought in speakers. So this is all thanks to Girl Up Bangladesh and our other female and girl Bangladeshi leaders. So thank you all so much. And I'm excited for you all to get to chat with them today. And thank you as well to our partner, the Caterpillar Foundation, who makes events like these possible. So this is an overview of what we're going to do today. We've got a lot of really exciting things going on. We're going to head into a breakout room in just a moment and get to know each other. And then we have some really exciting chats with women in STEAM, women who are leading bioengineering initiatives, just some really cool conversations headed our way. And then we'll wrap up with ways to take action and next steps that you can get involved with. For those who did celebrate, I also want to note Eid Mubarak, and I hope you all had a great break. I know some of us are wrapping up exams. This is a busy time of the year, so just congratulations and wishing you all well as we head into July. Who here is familiar with Girl Up? So if you want to raise your hand, maybe type in the chat. I think we have some YSI folks here. I see Serena has her hand raised. I see lots of folks saying they're familiar. Good. I'm glad to see all these familiar names. Okay, excellent. So just a quick overview of Girl Up. We are an organization with the United Nations Foundation. We're an affiliation, and we work with around 300,000 girls internationally. So girls just like you who are joining from all over the world, different time zones. Maybe you're on your phone, maybe you're on your computer, maybe you're with a group of people. Girl Up is all over the world, and that is something that we're so proud about. And our mission is really to advance gender equity. So today we're focusing that on STEAM and women and girls' involvement in STEAM, but we do it in a lot of different areas as well. Some of you might be familiar with this, but there's a lot of different ways to get involved with Girl Up. How many of you are members of clubs? I know Girl Up Bangladesh, but are there other people here who are members of clubs? I'm seeing some hands. Also feel free to put a shout out in the chat if you've got an Instagram you want anybody to follow. I know y'all are having fun on Instagram. I'm there too. It's a great time. So please shout out your club in the chat if you are a member of a Girl Up club. We also have a community, and this is where you can start your Girl Up club. So if you are wondering, how do I get involved further? How do I start a club? How do I join these events? I'm going to put a link in the chat with more information about how you can find out about Girl Up. And then finally, we have events like these. We have leadership summits, a lot of different in-person, virtual, and hybrid options for getting involved. So my best tip is if you're new to Girl Up and you want to learn more, join our community and then follow us on Instagram. And that's where we really share all of our updates and exciting new events. And then today, as I mentioned, we're talking about STEAM for social good. So we are really on a mission to increase gender representation in STEAM and to not only do that, but make it for a better world. So how do we bring in more girls and women into STEAM? And then how do we make the world a better place once we do that? So we're going to talk about that a lot today. I'm also going to put a link in the chat for our new Step Up for STEM course, which is a fun, free online course that teaches you all about how to have a STEM event like this one. So with Girl Up Bangladesh, if they wanted to host another event like this, they could take the course and learn about how to host that event. So join our community and you can find out all about that. All right. So just a few more things from me, and then I'm wrapping it up, I promise. A little bit about our Brave Space Agreement. So this is a safe space, but bringing in the courage to also share our thoughts and opinions. So we really encourage you all to not only make this a safe space for folks and welcoming identities and different beliefs that come to the table, but also a brave space where you're actively listening, you're actively supporting each other. And then the last thing for me, and then we're going to go head into the fun stuff, is to quickly our pre-event survey. I'm going to put the link in the chat as well, but you can scan that QR code on your phone and take the survey on your phone. This will just take a minute. So if you go ahead and do this, at the end of the event, I'll be sending out certificates for those who attended the event, and I'll pull that list from those who took the survey. So definitely take the survey. I'll make sure I get those certificates to you all, and it just takes a minute or two. So I'll give us all a minute. In the meantime, if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to type them in the chat. Keep sharing your Instagram handles. It's so good to see everybody. Let me know once you finish the survey by putting maybe your favorite emoji in the chat or one word to describe how you're feeling. You get either option, your favorite emoji, how you're feeling. Type that in the chat once you finished. Super excited. Love to see it. Welcome all to have just been joining right now. Please go ahead and take this pre-event survey if you haven't taken it already. I'm seeing some emojis in the chat. Looking good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. And then for folks who have not been able to access captions yet, you can turn them on by going to more. So if you scroll to the bottom of your screen, a toolbar that likely has maybe actions, it'll give you a few options. You're going to see 3 dots that say, click on those 3 dots, and that's how you can turn on captioning. It'll say captions and then show captions. So if you're someone who wants English or Bengali captions, go to those 3 dots, say more, turn on captions, and that will show the captions. Awesome. Great. Seeing so many emojis. I love it. Okay. Thrilled to be here. Fabulous. All right, let's get started then. Okay. One more thing that I'm going to ask is to take a picture of you all. It's the mom and me. I always have to document things. So if you can, if you feel comfortable, only if you feel comfortable, I'm going to take a screenshot of everybody. Let me move my camera around. All right. I see a lot of familiar faces. So if you have the ability and you feel interested in turning your camera on, now would be a great time. Again, no pressure to. I know we're joining from a lot of different time zones. It's nighttime, early for some of us. Amazing. I love to see all these wonderful faces. All right. Okay. I'm going to take a few different screenshots because we've got a lot of folks. So we'll do the first one. I'm going to give folks just another second and then I'll count down. Just smile and look at your webcam. That would be perfect. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. We'll do one more. 3, 2, 1. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to probably print these out. You know, they're definitely going on the Instagram. Y'all know that one already. All right. Okay, let's head into our breakout rooms. So for our folks in the breakout rooms for our leaders, let's do it in 10 to 12 minutes. I'll send you a reminder when we want to head back in. But you are going to jump into your breakout rooms and you're going to talk about who is an unsung hero in your life. You're going to meet with some fabulous Girl Up Bangladesh leaders and get to know each other, share a little bit about each other. If you are someone who wants to speak in Bengali, you're going to stay in this main room. So you might receive a prompt that says, head to a breakout room. You'll stay right here in the main room, so you can just ignore that, and we'll have a Bengali speaker in this room. If you're joining with a group of people in person, so I know some folks are joining from schools, you can breakout activity within your school group, and then we'll just have the opportunity to unmute and share back and forth when you would like to, but you can have action within your group. Oh, and yes, for folks, I will send this survey link again in the chat. And Allie, are we set to start moving folks into the breakout room?
Yes, I'll open them all now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, welcome back, everyone. So good to see everyone's face and see you all back in the main room. I hope you had a good conversation, and I hope it started getting you thinking about women in STEAM and who inspires you, because our next speaker is absolutely going to fit that bill as well. So I have the honor of passing it over to Sarika, who's going to introduce our next speaker. Sarika, are you on?
Yes, I am, Hallie. So the next speaker is someone I hold very, very close to my heart. She is someone I look up to in my own personal life. And she's just a perfect example of how resilience can, just empower you and pull you up so much and help you do big things in life. And it is my greatest pleasure to introduce you to the newly Dr. Ramisa Fariha. Fariha, please introduce yourselves.
Hello, everybody. To those joining from the same time zone as I am, a very, very good morning and a good evening to everyone else and whatever parts of the world you're joining from. My name is Ramisa Fariha. Like I said, I'm a newly minted doctor. Wow, 2 months already. Doesn't feel like it. But I will just go ahead and tell you a little bit about myself. I am currently a postdoctoral research associate at Brown University's RNA Center. It's the world's first tRNA modification center, and it's part of the Human RNome Project. So if you know what the Human Genome Project was, it's the kind of next thing in line, and I am basically leading all the mass spec studies that are taking place at the center. But that said, I will be, let me see where I can share my screen. If I can share my screen. You would think, yes, I got it. Thanks, y'all. All right, so let's get this started. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Beautiful. All right, so the talk I want to give today is called The Charm and Challenges of Bioengineering. And so my first question to all of you is, how many of you actually like to solve problems, meaning any sort of problem in day-to-day life? Just show of hands, put up emojis, anything of the sort. Okay. Oh, absolutely. Wonderful. Brilliant. So congratulations to all of you. Y'all are already engineers. So you can now put your hands down. Okay. And so I wasn't sure about the demographic of the audience I'll be talking to today. So I wanted to walk you through a little bit on, okay? Sorry, I thought I heard someone. Okay. I wanted to introduce all of you to what engineering and bioengineering. So an engineer, as you can clearly see, solves problems. Now, a bioengineer becomes a little bit more specific, where anything a bioengineer or a biomedical engineer, I will be using that term interchangeably, because that's how the field is right now. But basically, anything a bio or a biomedical engineer does impacts the healthcare, the healthcare anywhere in this world, the global health outcomes, which includes the environmental analysis, the water pollutants, the agricultural production, anything on the food contamination side, health policies all over the world, and any sort of discoveries that are taking place. Now, my journey in biomedical engineering has been anything but a straight line, as everyone's life is. So I started out with stem cell engineering, then I went into tissue engineering, then I went into optics, then I went into metabolomics and automation, and now I'm in transcriptomics. Basically, the idea is introducing all of you to the concept of the diversity of research, meaning it doesn't matter, you can start off with something at a very early stage in your career, and you can continue switching until you have found your calling. So in terms of my undergraduate experience, I went to Penn State, so straight born and raised in Naranganj, Bangladesh. Those who don't know, it's a very small town, very industrial town. And I was the only girl in my high school graduating class, now that I think about it. But born and raised in Naranganj, ended up at Penn State for my bachelor's in biomedical engineering. And I was the first international student to become freshman of the year. I also received a number of accolades, including the best president for the Muslim Student Association, one of the top 20 most active engineers on campus. But for me, the most rewarding moment, actually, beyond all of this, was the day I was able to show my parents my work. And I didn't realize it was going to be that important to me. And my undergrad research focused on developing a xeno-free medium without any animal contamination for stem cell, for embryonic stem cells. And that was very new to me and actually anybody at Penn State at the moment, but it was a cool experience. And that's when I learned how to pipette. I held my first pipette 9 years ago, around this time. And so that moment, this picture is kind of what sealed my deal as a scientist. I knew I wanted to learn more. And so right after my undergrad, I ended up moving to Columbia, Maryland. It's very close to Washington, D.C. And I started working at this company called ACEL Incorporated. And as you can see, I actually work with pig bladder to tissue engineer scaffolds that would go in for surgery. And this photograph here, actually, I'm chopping up mice bone marrow, or actually I'm like taking off tips off of the femur and the tibia to flush up the mice bone marrow, because that was the work that would initially build up to all of like the tissue engineering. And this was eye-opening because I had moved out of central Pennsylvania, which had a different demographic, to a location that had a lot more cultural diversity. But at the same time, I was very, very tuned to the fact that there weren't very many people in this room that looked like me. There weren't women of color. I was half the time presenting to a group of all white men on the work that I was doing, and most of them questioning my credibility. And of course, working with pig bladder is no fun. This is something that I learned in the process. And I also learned how to do dishwashing. So that was one of the skills I learned out of my internship. And so living from there, I received an email from Brown University, and just a little bit of a background, I always wanted to come to Brown. And my story might be different, wherein I knew in 7th grade I wanted to become a biomedical engineer, but then look at me, I still don't have my research life figured out. Versus someone can have a late termination and say, I'm going to become a mechanical engineer and just stick with it for the rest of their life. And that's completely okay. We all have our different journeys. But that said, I wanted to come to Brown since I was in 7th grade. Long story short, got an email where I was asked to lead a study. And it was going to be a tissue engineering study together with optical coherence tomography. Now, if you don't know what optical coherence tomography is, it's okay. I did not know either. It's basically a very, very, very expensive instrument. Usually it's used for eye prosthetics. But the idea of my work was to use it to show in real time how you can image three-dimensional cancer cells. And as you put different drugs and treatments through it, how they alter. And of course, I had to hand make all these breast cancer tissues from start. I had to troubleshoot a lot. That's where the engineering part of me flourished quite a bit. And basically, I was coding a lot where, I would acquire three-dimensional tissue, three-dimensional images, turn them into two-dimensional, then recreate them into three-dimensional, and of course, do a lot of immunohistochemical validation studies. And one important thing I learned in this process was, one, nothing ever truly works in the world of science. So you'll always have something to fix. You'll always have something to discover. And also, graduating in the middle of the pandemic is not a fun thing. But that worked out well in my favor, because that's when I got my position for my PhD. And the cool part about my PhD research was anything I was doing, I was working straight up in the middle of the pandemic. So while the world was shut down, I was hands-on working with COVID samples. I was doing automation of a lot of these samples. Plus, at the same time, I got to discover a whole new world. So clinical metabolomics is a part of the diagnostic universe. My training was not in the diagnostic. And that's where a lot of on-the-job learning happened. But one of the coolest things was I got to work with what's called the idea of microsamples, meaning what are the ways you can use very small amounts of sample. And this was very close to me because it meant that you could use something like a dried blood spot, meaning you could just, finger prick, put blood on a piece of paper, dry it up, send it to me all the way from Bangladesh, and I can analyze. And that was really cool for me. That said, I got to design a whole bunch of stuff. I got my first patent in the process. I did a whole bunch of computational modeling. And of course, I got to show a robotic liquid handler who is the real boss. And so the whole process was very rewarding. And I actually graduated and did my defense while my dad was hospitalized. So that was another bit of a challenge. But that said, just this schematic it encompasses all 9 projects that I've done just in my 3.5 years of PhD. And it's kind of funny saying it that way, but I did complete my PhD in 3.5 years. And it was completely eye-opening as to everything that I could do as a scientist, but also as a bioengineer. So meaning I had no limits. I had the engineering principles that could guide me to all this invention, but I also had my love for biology and chemistry and physics that helped me reach to this point. The long story short of bioengineering is, as long as you have love for any of these things you're seeing on the right-hand side, meaning physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, computers, arts and crafts, believe me, arts and crafts is very important in biomedical engineering or bioengineering, because when you design a product, the aesthetics of it is very important to get your investors kind of triggered in and hooked on, but also helping others. And that's where my first love for the field comes in. So if you are interested, whether you want to do environmentally, whether you want to do what's called water analysis, wastewater analysis. Hello? Okay. Hi, am I good to continue?
Yes, please continue. I think that was someone unmuting themselves.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, but the whole idea is whether you're interested in, doing environmental and agricultural analysis, whether you want to develop food products, meaning we're in a world where we are seeing an uprising trend in people becoming more and more vegetarian. And so bioengineers actually come into play where they're designing the impossible meat, meaning meats that are essentially vegetarian or vegan. And so that's where bioengineers come in too, or something of the sort of you're interested in changing global health policy. So one of my colleagues, Dr. Lee, she was the first African American to graduate from Brown's biomedical engineering PhD program, and she is now starting her new position at Rice University as the director of global health policy. Meaning, you can have all kinds of degrees. You can have a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, and you have the whole world to explore once you're in this field because there's literally nothing stopping. Now, the charm, going back to the title of my talk, is I get to do a lot of fun things. So I get to wake up at 6 a.m. and talk to all of you. That's part of the charm. I get to travel all over the world and present the work that I do, something that I'm very passionate about. I get to teach. That is another passion. Sometimes you enjoy interacting with the next generation of scientists and engineers quite a bit. I get to hands-on create and a lot of the times break very expensive instruments. So the two instruments I actually work with every day, they're each $600,000 each. And when I break them, I feel like a little bit of daddy in that, I have broken a very expensive piece of machinery. And of course, the mentoring aspect. And that means I get to learn from my students. And when they go places, that brings me a lot of joy. So in this picture, this was my team that helped me bring my antidepressant study together. You can see the girl, Emma, she's an athlete and she did her bachelor's from Brown and now she's playing full-time field hockey and getting her free MBA from Bryant and is headed to MIT and Mass General in the fall to continue her research. The gentleman right next to me is Mr. Adam, who is a scientist now in New York City for Calio, and he'll be going to med school next year. And then the gentleman next to him is David Oko, who has represented Brown in a lot of national platforms, and he's been doing his research with me since he was a first-year student. And he was also the first-year student to win the prestigious American Chemical Society scholarship to go attend one of their conferences. And so when you interact with students like this, and they're just some of the people I work with every day, I have students and mentees all over the world. And that is the beauty of this field where you can not only advise people in real time, but you see how lives get changed, not just with your research, but with the words you say. And then, of course, there are some of the challenges. You will have days like this, and I wish I had a different answer, but this is very true. You will have moments where experiments will not work, and it will break you down. Sometimes you will be in the lab, and you'll get a call saying you have lost your grandpa, you've lost somebody you hold very close to your heart. You will have a lot of late nights, and believe me, those the coffee aspect of it soon replaces your blood. I'll tell you that. This was a photograph of me at like midnight. I was in the lab and I was proactively working, and this was when I had just filed my provisional patent, and it meant a lot of work getting the U.S. Patent Board to agree to take our patent. And of course, the part where I said, it can be a global pandemic, the world is shut down and you're constantly working because at the end of the day, anything you do directly or indirectly impacts the world and lives all over the universe. And now, of course, outside the lab, I get to do a lot of fun stuff. But more, one of my more recent roles was I ended up being the chair of international advocacy at the Brown Graduate Student Council, and that was a fun experience. It gave me a little bit of a leeway outside, a life outside the lab. And then, of course, you contribute to the scientific community at large, meaning what can you do globally? I personally love volunteering for minority events. I serve as a member for the Knowledge Content and Delivery Council for the Society of Laboratory Automation and Screening. And of course, I serve as reviewer and I do a lot of fun stuff on the side. But that said, I think the biggest takeaway I would have for all of you from this talk would be, one, it is okay not to know what you want to do in your life, as long as you have some vague idea. Like, you can have a doctorate degree and still be like, I suddenly want to switch my research to transcriptomics, and I have no idea what that is. And of course, resilience is a must. So whether it was doctor saying, hey, I'm taking your dad in for a surgery and I have to defend my doctoral thesis at the same time. Whether it's a global pandemic trying to stop you, whether it's depression, anxiety, things that actually break you apart. Know that your resilience is your biggest secret to success. And also remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. For me, that's a reminder for every single day, not just, I'm doing this for my family, for my friends, but also for people who rely on me and rely on my success story. So this picture that you see where, a patient is getting ocular image, it was really cool. I got to be in the room in real time. And the whole concept was how, one, the patient was reacting to this new technology, but also how easy it was for the doctor to use it, and where I could come and have a real life impact. And of course, you get a lot of thank yous from people all over the world. So this little thank you card you see on the side is from one of my students, Sonica, who she has been my mentee. So she was at Penn State. She's been my mentee since she was a freshman. And now she's starting her PhD at MIT in the fall with National Science Foundation Scholarship. And this was one of the first things she had sent me ever, because I spoke to one of my professors and got her in his research lab. So the idea of giving back always helps. So a lot of the time, your experiments may not be working. You are frustrated where life is taking you. But then you'll have something like this where you randomly get a message saying, hey, I heard you speak and, it changed my life forever. And that's what keeps you going. And so the beauty of the charm of bioengineering is you get to do a lot of cool things. And the challenge includes you need to keep pushing it. And with that, I'm open to all kinds of questions.
Thank you so much for the engaging and informative and realistic. I must add that it was a very realistic experience, and it was also refreshing to see someone talk about the real challenges that real people have, because a lot of the times they only, they're talking only about the academic stress or, academics wise, but you touched on points like mental health, which we often overlook, but it in fact impacts us so much. So we have a few questions from the chats that I'd just like to reiterate. One of the main ones that we're having is if you have any research opportunities for high school students, or if you're taking someone, how's that going? Like,
okay, wonderful. That is a beautiful question. So to those who don't know, I actually do have a lot of research students who are in high school. So one of my students who worked with me last summer, Farhan, he was a high schooler back in New Jersey, and he moved in to Brown for the summer. He worked with me on a couple of my automation projects, and he's headed to Princeton in the fall for his bachelor's. And that was a cool experience. And he's, of course, a very hardworking child and had this opportunity to come in person. But then I also have students. So this summer I have a student. Her name is Leela, and she's in Florida, and she's doing virtual research with me, and she's continuing some of the robotic stuff that Farhan started. And that's, obviously remote work is challenging. And right now, to those who don't know, my father is actually hospitalized, and he's, waiting on a donor for a total liver transplant, or else he won't make it. So things are a little stressful, and, of course, the new job and working with insurance in the US is another different story. But despite all of that, I have my weekly meetings with Leela, and this is more on the informal side. So it's not as firmly affiliated with Brown, but Leela's still getting to publish some work with me. And I mentor for the National Leadership Alliance. And that is something where students from different institutions all over the US, they get to come to Brown and perform research, and they can range from like high school to undergrad. And one thing I was talking to Hallie about actually not too long ago is how we can expand that opportunity and start involving students from all over the world. So a lot of the times, when I was mentoring Farhan, I hands-on saw what an impact it had on his career and the opportunities he got handed that I did not when I was in high school. And I think, it's very important that for the equity extent that we are always talking about, the equity and the equality, it's important that we start bridging some of those gaps. And so I am looking forward to expanding it, and hopefully someday when I'm going to be a PI and have my own lab, it's probably going to be hustling and bustling with a lot of international students from all over the world. So that's kind of that's the dream.
That sounds amazing. Thank you for that. And we'll just move on to the last question so far. And it's a question that I have as well. And that's, why did you go for bioengineering? We could see a list of all of the things that, it's involved in: physics, chemistry, maths, arts and crafts. Why bioengineering? Why would you go for that? And the other thing is, if you have any tips for, someone who'd like to do the same, just the same path as you, and what would be your tips or some things that you wish you knew when you started?
Oh, wonderful question. And I know I do tend to talk quite a bit, and I'm just like, I cannot summarize things quickly. Few things. My path to bioengineering was very different, and I do not recommend this to people because I fell in love with the wrestler whose ex-wife ended up having ovarian cancer. And I was, in small town of Bangladesh, and I'm like, wait, I have ovaries? I can get this cancer? I don't know what this is. They don't teach this stuff in high school. And I started investigating it. And that's when I stumbled upon the work of Dr. Jeff Morgan here at Brown University. And he was trying to create the world's first mouse artificial ovary. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I was like, I'm going to grow up and become a bioengineer. And once I started looking more and more into this field, it was the mix of how physics and chemistry came into the field that I truly, truly love. Because the moment you hear engineer, you're immediately flagged that you have to know a lot of math, a lot of physics. But people often overlook the idea of chemistry and biochemistry. And my first love was chemistry. And so it was kind of like the perfect match of wanting to help people, loving arts and crafts, but also combining all of this with the idea of innovating and creating something. So that's kind of my path to bioengineering. And your other question was what's my favorite thing in bioengineering? Yeah, I actually like everything. That's my problem. I never say no. And that's, yes, another thing you all should learn, take away from this talk, is never say no to opportunities. No matter who poses whatever opportunity in front of me, I never say no. Stem cell, I don't know what that is. I'll take it, and you learn. And I think the biggest, bestest thing we can, the way we can help ourselves is by learning. There's no way you stop learning ever. whether it's from your undergrad, whether it's from your high schooler, you are constantly learning. So kind of imagine yourself to be a sponge and continue learning. So it's hard for me to say what I actually really like it so far. I like everything.
Okay, almost 100 people have been hearing you so far, and they're here. So it's surely something that we have looked up to a lot. Thank you so much for giving us precious time, Dr. Ramisa Fariha. And with that, I feel we'd like to wrap up this session. And Hallie, could you perhaps take the mic and just let us know what you're going to do next? Thanks again, Ramisa. Pleasure to have you here.
And sorry, before I leave, thank you all for all of this. And I'm seeing all of these lovely questions. If you all want to shoot me a message somewhere, you can go to my website and shoot a message there. We'll be happy to answer. But also I'll pass my contact information with Hallie and the rest of Girl Up. And I'll be more than happy to help all of you. And you've got this. I hope I have inspired at least some of you to get into this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on that note as well, if folks have any additional questions, you can also email them to me. So I will put my contact information in the chat and I can relay those questions. But thank you so much, Dr. Fariha and Sarika as well. And if everyone can send another round of congratulations for Dr. Fariha, who just got her doctorate, which is so, so amazing. So type them in the chat, let her know, very exciting. I was like, wow, I saw the Zoom name with doctor. It was so exciting. So thank you so much for joining. All right, let me share my screen quickly and we're going to dive right into the next segment. So our next speaker is also another fabulous person to learn from, and I'm so excited for you all to talk with her. So I am actually going to pass it over to Anisha and Saroshi, who are going to introduce her. So Anisha, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you. I'm so honored to introduce this person. Elisa, she's the CEO of Girls in Quantum. She's reached plus 15,000 attendees by speaking at 50 plus international conferences. Here are the lovely names. We have United Nations Women Economic Forum, which I just checked out today. She's been featured on Forbes 30 Most Powerful Women list. She is very interested in engineering, business, entrepreneurship, innovation, quantum computing, AI, and the intersection of healthcare and emerging technologies. That's a lot. I'm very excited to talk to her.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing great. And thank you so much, Anisha, for this lovely presentation and introduction. Hallie as well, and everyone who is as well here. I'm so happy. I'm coming. Well, I'm Chile. I'm from Chile right now. So really excited to tell you a little bit about my story as well. Have a little chat. I think that I would take sort of the advantage of this conversation to feel free to drop like any questions in the meantime. Like I'm so happy to respond to any of your questions and your concerns. And yeah, I'm so enthusiastic to tell you more about well, my journey. It has been definitely ups and downs in terms of getting into technology, on bioengineering, and sort of what STEM areas, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So really enthusiastic. I hope that you can start learning a bit more about your interests as well throughout like your journey. It doesn't need to be like at the start, like you don't have to be like 5 years old to start. It's more about your own way, and that's what I want to sort of communicate here. So, well, once again, I'm Elisa, and I'm here in the coastal side of Chile, so just in the middle part. And I honestly think that this is such a great place for me to just explore my interests. So since I was a child, I've been really into connecting with nature, exploring myself with, I don't know, I was seeing like some frogs, I remember when I was growing up. So that allowed me to be like really curious, experiment with the soil. I don't know how many of you were like really curious when you were children as well. But I was really into that kind of person. And that really allowed me to focus on two main areas. So I said to myself, well, I have to, if I want to be something when I grow up, there's two main aspects that I want to consider to myself. And one was curiosity, because I was like, oh, asking myself questions for about everything. I was like questioning why, like, I don't know, is the soil like this, or why does like our brain works if it's like, we could say like a piece of meat, right? So I was asking a lot of questions. The second thing was being creative. I think that I had this inspiration of myself, like getting to know other people, and they were like creating different paintings. And I wasn't really a talented person in those terms, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, like creating different paintings, doing myself, I don't know, a portrait to other person. And I was really happy of that. So I'm happy that I'm seeing some people in the chat agreeing as well, that they were also curious. So those two things, also in the future allow me to, okay, focus on different areas of interest. I started going to programming. I think that the first time that I got into programming, I was like, well, how does this work, right? Like programming, I saw people like, my stereotype of people in programming was, oh, okay, there's like this place, dark place where people are programming over there. They're really like kind of focused on that, and they don't do anything more like else. But yeah, that was a lie, actually. So I discovered that many programmers are really into not just focusing on their computer or different codes that allow to perhaps a great result, but actually that could make an impact in other people. So perhaps I can code something that could be beneficial for you, let's say to understand a platform, to get education. So there are different sort of ways and that you can start learning about coding, that you can start learning about technology that can have this intersection to social impact. And that's so beautiful, right? So in 2022, actually, I found this course during the pandemic. So I hear that some experience have happened during the pandemic, and this happened as well. So during the lockdown, I discovered this course that it was called Introduction to Quantum Computing. And for me, once again, I had like this experience with programming, but quantum computing, honestly, like, I don't know for you, but it was my first time listening that time. And the only word I knew there was computing, right? So what was quantum? What was like that part that sounds so mysterious? And well, I give it a try. I think that the most important thing that I've learned so far is like, you have to try. You don't have to limit yourself like, hey, I don't know this. I don't know quantum. Like if I had known quantum, that would be like, okay, I'll try either way. But I tried even if I didn't know the word. So don't be afraid of trying something new. So I clicked the button, I applied to the program, even if I didn't fully understand it well. And hey, I did it, and receiving a full scholarship to participate. And that was so beautiful because that program opened my eyes into quantum computing, which is a new type of computing that is based in quantum mechanics or quantum physics. So not just the typical one that we use right now with our computers, it's a much more powerful one that allows for faster computation, and also being more efficient for certain problems. So that blew my mind. I was able to get to know many people as well in the area. So classmates that were like from all parts of the world. Can you imagine like getting to know like many people as well? Like we're from here. Yeah, so getting to know many people really caught my attention, but also the interest and the potential of this. So quantum computing, could you imagine, for example, the intersection of quantum computing and healthcare? That was one thing. And then they told me, like, could you imagine as well, like the intersection of quantum computing and finances? And I was, wow, okay, other thing, right? So could you imagine the intersection of quantum computing and cybersecurity, which was other things? So how can quantum computers, for example, help you secure your data in a much more efficient way or practical way than others? So there's tons of applications nowadays, as well as healthcare, that is really of my interest. So in terms of healthcare, there is the possibility of quantum computers to help you simulate different molecules and sort of drug development in a much faster way, which could help like many people's lives, right? So I think that I'm trying to get you fall in love with quantum computing as much as I do. But that's the idea, because that made me realize like the potential of quantum, first of all. And the second thing was how technology allows you, like, for this great power that you have in your hands, but also the responsibility that we have as a student, for example, as people that are interested in the area, to do something that could really be meaningful in others' life, right? So I wasn't going to change the world with quantum computing, of course, because I was just learning it. I wasn't going to be like Oppenheimer, but I decided, well, if I had the opportunity to learn about quantum, to get engaged with this community of students, why not sharing this same opportunity here in Chile, for example, and starting getting to know more people and getting like them the resources to educate themselves as well with quantum computing. So I reached out to some, like, we were just right here, for example, in the SimTat, in one of the last classes of the coding school it was. And we were 1,000 students. I was learning quantum computing like for the past 9 months by then. And I sent a Zoom chat and I told them like, hey, I'm Elisa. I am from Chile and I want to start an initiative to sort of involve more women in science, first of all, but mostly in quantum computing. And guess what? After some hours, I received like 3 messages, one from a girl from Ethiopia, a girl from Spain, and a girl from United States. And that blew my mind. That was like the start of like Girls in Quantum by itself. We started brainstorming different ideas. What can we do, or mission or vision? How can we start involving more women, especially because we saw like, hey, actually, there are not many women as we want, right? So what can we do about it, right? And we started involving more, right? So we started contacting different people. I remember contacting companies here in Chile, in United States, and guess what? Many of them said no to us. Like, hey, Elisa, well, that's great what you're doing, or hey, like Girls in Quantum team, it's great what you're doing, but we have to keep moving. For example, they told us. And that was totally fine. At first, it hit, right? Rejection hits. And it could be something that you don't really want. However, afterwards, you start learning, like, hey, actually, like that rejection, like, taught me how to really sort of respond to that, right? To failure, to rejection. And sort of not take it as a failure by itself, but take it as a redirection, right? I love that word. So, hey, perhaps that was not the opportunity, but hey, here I can take it this way. I can like do this. I can contact these people, right? So I was able to contact different people along my team, and we were able to contact one company, IBM, and they told us like, hey, let's collaborate. Let's do something, right? And we were able to create different workshops and seminars as well to keep educating students in quantum computing, which I find really interesting. So yeah, so that's the idea. Like, if you don't have the opportunity, like someone says no to you, like don't take it as a failure, take it as a redirection. That's really important. So I think that has been one of the main parts of like my journey as well, founding Girls in Quantum. But also I've been never like stopping exploring my interests. For example, in terms of bioengineering, I've been trying to also get really involved in the community here in Chile, but also like globally exploring different internets. Right now we're so lucky that we have the opportunity to access internet. So why not take advantage of it, right? Why not getting into like internet and seeing like it's just like as easy sometimes as like, hey, I'm going to say like this internship opportunity here in Chile, for example, or online, remote. So I started looking up for opportunities and I was signing up for everything, you know? So that's one recommendation that I would give to everyone. Don't be afraid to register yourself to something. Like the worst thing that can happen is that you won't attend perhaps. But the best thing is that you have the opportunity to, hey, perhaps I can learn about this. I can engage with other people. I can network and perhaps, who knows, I can connect with a mentor. That's really valuable. And I think that in any sort of area, not just in bioengineering, engineering, quantum computing, whatever you want, in all of those areas, it's really key to sort of build connections and get yourself inspired and also accountable. Sometimes you're like so motivated to start with a field, but it's obvious that you will get to a point that perhaps you're not feeling really well about that topic or really well about like keep learning about it. So the idea is that you can get yourself accountable, get yourself a community that supports you, that tells you like, hey, you can do this, like we can do this together and work to get this done, right? So that's the idea. In terms of bioengineering specifically, I've been doing certain research in biomedical engineering and AI. So that's really interesting. Also, like doing this intersection of emerging technologies and sort of biomedical engineering or healthcare. So I was able to contact different professors. I think it's intimidating at first, I won't lie. But the idea is that you can keep trying. I was like the same experience as the emails. That's why I told you about that, because I was sending so many emails to people and they were telling me no, and some percentages were saying me yes. But I was like, okay, I'm used to this right now. This is happening the same with professors. I'm going to try and sort of tell them why am I interested in this project. So after all, I landed some internships. One was in Stanford University. And it's great to see the environment over there as well with other people, like, hey, let's learn about AI and machine learning. Let's learn about how can we, through AI and machine learning, detect certain patterns for breast cancer, for example. So it's really great to have that experience to put my work into practice. We spent several months working on a project that was able to use different data sets from breast cancer, from breast cancer data sets. So it was pretty interesting to understand, well, okay, what is our focus area? Who am I going to impact through this project? And a third thing is, how can I sort of improve my skills here in technology while harnessing AI models in sort of these data sets from hospitals. So I would totally encourage you, to anyone that might be interested in this. I saw like some questions before, like for the other presentation as well, like what can we do in high school? Like, do you have like any opportunities in mind? I think that right now, like, you are your best opportunity, actually. You are your best opportunity, because if you start investing in yourself, you're going to grow so much that you will have the right skills and knowledge to keep advancing and go into different paths that will be like, hey, I really like this. I really like doing this internship. I really like doing like, let's say, this position, right? So look for opportunities online that might be of your interest. Explore as well different options. Like perhaps there's like something new, like you're really like fond of biology. But if there's like opportunity that combines biology with something like completely different that you may thought, go ahead, like try, register and give it a try. I think that would be like the best advice. So yeah, I was able to complete that internship. Like it was like, once again, I think that there's always this part of romanticizing everything, of like, hey, I did this, like this nice pictures, right? Like I'm doing here, I'm in the lab, I'm like in my computer. But there's of course this sort of different aspects of it. So you'll have to face like, hey, debugging, right? Like fixing errors with the programming code, right? So that was like, how can I solve this error? The second thing was, how can we communicate this idea properly with our team? How can we effectively do it in the right timeline that we had? So that was the second thing. And the third thing was also getting the data. So for example, how are we going to manage all this data if we want to have like a large impact project, if we have so like little data, right? So we definitely have these challenges that we needed to face. However, with the teamwork, it was much easier to do it. And I think that lastly, one of the other internships that I really wanted to showcase as well, or share with you, was one that I got in touch as well with someone that I contacted, like, hey, like I'm Elisa once again, my interest as well, and why I want to continue with this research program. And it was mainly about something completely different. Once again, it was about creating different marine structures. And those structures would be done by 3D printers and also wooden lasers. So completely new once again. But the good thing about that project, it was that you could help actually people visually impaired to get to know about the biodiversity of Chile. So that was really great for me, because I was able to understand. That was my first approach to understanding. That was my first research project, I believe. And that was the one that told me like, hey, there's actually the way that you can learn about something while doing something that could be really beneficial for others, that has this social impact. So I saw that intersection and I was like, wow, this is for me. So we started developing different products. We started like touching like different textures of like the molecule, like the structures, the marine structures. And after a few months of work, we were able to develop these figures that were able to teach about biodiversity to students in high school, that were able to perhaps have that type of education, right? That was mentally, especially to visually impaired children, so they were able to touch and understand the textures, which I found really interesting. So yeah, I'm really curious about that, about continuing with those options, as well as girls in quantum. I think that both worlds have connected me to different areas and to different people that are wonderful. Like I'm able to be here, right, with you. There are wonderful people that are really interested in getting to know more about like different experiences and insights. And I would just encourage you to keep connecting with other people, to build yourself a network. You may think like, hey, perhaps this is like for older people, like they want to connect with people or things like that, but it's not like that. You can make yourself many opportunities if you start connecting with your peers, if you create a project together. It doesn't need to be like, I don't know, rocket science or like getting into Mars, but you can start in your own school, in your own house, where you live, right? Creating your own project, and it can have a really nice impact that you don't even imagine right now. Like when I started Girls in Quantum, I was like, okay, let's create something like as a small project, because I was so happy to keep sharing about quantum computing, but I never thought it would reach to people in other countries, in other continents. So that is the beautiful aspects of internet as well, and passion and teamwork. So I would totally encourage you to keep pursuing your interests. Don't be afraid to, perhaps if it's something new, if you want to like face rejection or something, it's part of the process, facing rejection. If you don't face rejection, question yourself, because you're not trying that much. So try that much and don't be afraid to keep trying. So yeah, I hope that I can continue with anything with questions. I'm so happy to respond anything. Like if I miss something, let me know. I'll be more than happy.
That was really nice, Elisa, getting to know your journey in quantum computing. I think a lot of us have developed our interest in that so far. And I would love to know more about the success stories you have with your Girls in Quantum. But before that, there is something that you haven't touched on. I was very excited to ask you this after looking at your profile. Could you share with us how you became an AB Duke Scholar, including insights into the application process and what it has meant for you in your academic and personal journey?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Anisha, for the question. Yeah, I'm so thankful for that opportunity. I was recently awarded with this full merit scholarship to go to Duke University in the United States. So I'm really like so happy about it. I can believe this is possible for me, especially because I didn't think that I like needing all the financially possible, like I was able to get there. So that was a really great thing for me. And I think that the process overall, like I would recommend anyone. There's like always people saying like, hey, be yourself, and I couldn't agree more. Like be yourself in the process. It's like showcasing your inner self. What do you really like, and what it's not like there's this question sometimes like what makes you unique, but I think that everyone is unique in a certain way, right? So you don't have to prove it like in a certain way, like you don't have to twist it or anything. The idea is that you can really communicate your ideas, and to communicate your ideas, talk with your peers. Like how do they see yourself, right? How do you see yourself? And what can you have to contribute to perhaps a certain place? I think that that's really important, and I try to showcase that in my applications. Sometimes these applications are so competitive that there's like not a good environment sometimes, but the good idea is, or like the good thing to do is to try, learn from others. I remember like specifically for the application process, I remember seeing like all of these YouTube videos, like people like, hey, like applying to these colleges or applying to scholarships. And they had like amazing stats as well, and sort of also like academic records. But I really try to understand, hey, like this like some patterns that I see, like common patterns that I can achieve as well, like some goals that I can do. Like I set long-term and short-term goals. So for example, freshman year, okay, I'm going to try and do a thing that would be new to me, right? I would also try to do some things with my school, things like that you can also sort of, I don't know, put yourself a goal, right? So that was like the main idea for me. And it's so beautiful that I am now making this dream possible. So I encourage you, anyone that might be interested in applying, contact me, like feel free, like I can give you any advice and tips.
That's really great. And I think someone also put down your LinkedIn, so I'll definitely contact you. So
Yeah.
Shreyoshi, would you like to go for a question?
Yeah, I did have one question. You did mention that there are very few women in the field you're in. And when you were starting out, there were very few women that reached out to you and you had a really small team. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think there are so less women in your field? And
Good question.
what can we do to inspire more women to joining quantum computing?
Yeah, so well, I remember when I joined the course, like once again I was like, well, where are the girls? Right? Like that song. So I was like really curious to understand like why were like more girls in the program or not. And I said to myself, well, let's do something about it, right? Let's create like this initiative, Girls in Quantum, that could allow to like, hey, break those barriers, right? You're having like in the background, like breaking those barriers, right? So I think that the specific reasons may vary. Sometimes there are cultural issues, people that cannot access to, like, quantum computing is so niche that it's like difficult to like listen to it every day, like about it, like, hey, like today in the news I saw this news about quantum computing. Like it's difficult sometimes, right? But I think that's one thing, like it's really niche. The second thing is that once again, like cultural issues, sometimes there are like many stereotypes nowadays. So for example, here in Chile or in different countries as well, like it's not just a thing of like a country by itself, but sometimes like, oh, okay, like you should like do other thing, right? So there's a lot of stereotypes that of course I don't agree with, but I think that sometimes end up being a barrier for people, especially women that may be trying to get into like these wonderful fields. But yeah, I think that we should just take it as some words, right? Like we're here and those are like the words over here and this is our path. So those words just like sometimes serve as a word of like, hey, keep doing it, right? Like I should keep doing this. I should keep being perhaps sometimes even inspiring other people that you don't even know about. So I remember when I first went to school here in Chile, and it was so great to like get to know other people, and they were like telling me like, hey, I saw your journey from the start, and now I'm like doing this program here with my school. We're like teaching other girls about programming, and I was like, wait, what? This is amazing. So the fact that you can get inspired by someone is something that really drives me. But also like role models for me had that is really important. So sometimes we sort of I don't know, overlook the role of role models by itself. You may think, oh, okay, there's like people that inspire others, but that could really make a difference in like a student, like no matter how old the student is, you can have a role model and sort of have like inspiration, like, hey, perhaps I want to be like her, I want to be like him. Right, so that's the best thing. I hope that I responded both questions. If I missed something, please let me know.
The response was perfect. And I have an add-on question to that. So let's say I were to tell you that I want to join quantum computing. What advice would you give to a young?
Oh, I think I miss her, right? Well, but I know that it's advice for young people in quantum, right? Okay, awesome.
Advice
Okay,
for any young woman who would be willing to join your field.
Excellent. So I would first encourage you all to keep following Girls in Quantum, because we post like a lot of news over there, a lot of opportunities if you want to keep being involved and learn about like different things that are happening right now. But the second thing is first, like if I would recommend two areas, like first is like the mindset area. So keep yourself like motivated and I would say that motivated and disciplined in the way that you're like keep exploring about the topic. Like sometimes whenever like the first class of quantum computing that I had no idea about it. I learned like we had like this hour of lecture, and I remember seeing quantum mechanics for the first time, linear algebra, physics. And that, for me, that was so new. Like there was so different complex concepts that I was like, is this really for me? Right? But I gave it a try, and that was the most important thing. So keep yourself motivated. Second of all, don't be afraid if you see like many concepts that you don't really understand. You will get to it. You'll get to understand. Like practice makes better, right? Makes improvement. I wouldn't say makes perfect, but makes improvement, and that's the best thing, right? So keep yourself accountable and try different things, practice, and yeah, like you have to believe in yourself as well. Like if you think like, hey, perhaps I'm not good enough for this, like there's like so many smart people over here in this program, how am I going to deal with this? Like no, you're there for a reason, right? Like you have to try, you have to like keep yourself motivated. Like the only thing that could stop you would be like, hey, I really don't like this, after I spent like months in it perhaps, and that's totally fine. Like if you don't like something, it's good for you because you tried something new and you discover like, hey, like my interests perhaps don't go this way, and it's totally fine, right? So keep yourself accountable once again, and also explore different materials online. So right now in Girls in Quantum, we have a database full of opportunities. So it's not just about like, okay, like I'm going to get a course, right? Like understand this through a course or YouTube video, but also through a game, right? I actually have this. So this hub, I don't know if you can see it. So this is a game that we developed with a Swiss researcher actually. And I think that was like so a new thing for me. So we were able to get contacted with one Swiss researcher, and he told us like, hey Lisa, I'm doing like this thesis, and I want to continue teaching students about quantum mechanics. And he had this amazing idea of teaching quantum mechanics through the like cards, so we could start playing. And he wanted to collaborate with us, and we are now having these games in lots of regions thanks to our ambassadors, Girls in Quantum. So that's really nice sort of thing to know, that you can also learn by playing, right? Learn by like having fun with your friends. I'm so happy about like this product, because it allows us to go to different high schools and schools in general and teach about quantum mechanics through this game that is called Hub. So it's really nice. And so we have here the logo of Girls in Quantum, which is so crazy. Oh, right here. I don't know if you're able to see it. But yeah, I'm so happy. I'm like fangirling about it. So I'm so happy about it. And yeah, I hope that I responded to your questions, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you for answering these questions so perfectly.
Awesome.
Yeah, your advice for us was really insightful. And if you could quickly just put in Girls in Quantum Instagram link in the chat box, that would be great for us to like get involved, get in touch with you anytime. And that was really great. Thank you so much. I'd like to give it up to Hallie now to tell us next steps.
Thanks, Anisha. And thank you so much again, Elisa. And everyone, wish her good luck, because I know you're headed to school very soon. So good luck with all that's coming your way. Thank you so much for jumping on today. All right. So let me introduce our next segment and our next speaker. Let's see, pull up my slides. Okay, so we're going to dive into more of our activities that we're going to do together. And to introduce that, I have the pleasure of introducing our final speaker today, Monica Notion, who is the Associate Director of Heifer International. And she has a whole wealth of experiences, but we're going to learn a lot about how she has addressed clean cooking, both in her communities and throughout the world. So she's been working for 9 years, designing projects and designing initiatives around clean cooking, around climate financing, carbon credits. And she really has an international perspective on how you can use STEM for social good. So I'm so excited to hear from her. once we learn from her, I want you to be thinking about your own communities and how you might be able to create social good in your communities. So we'll learn from Monica, and then we'll apply it in an exercise that we all do together. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will pass it over to Monica if she's, yep, perfect. I see her. Welcome, Monica.
Hi, Hallie. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you all. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm based in Dhaka, and it was really great to hear that some of you are my alumni from my previous schools. I had my secondary school certificate from BF Shine School. If you are in here, please cheer up for that. And I had my HSC from Rajguru Model College. I heard some of you were from there. And I had my graduation and post-graduation from University of Dhaka in Women and Gender Studies. So it's really lovely and a great time with you girls that I have been having throughout this afternoon. So I'm Monica. My full name is Monica Notion. I am working as Associate Director of HAIFA International. HAIFA International is an international NGO that works with farmers, rural women, and the technology that we can bring to the rural farmers to increase our food security and sustainable agricultural models. And before that, I worked for ATEC. So my whole 9 years of experience was basically in raising funds. I think often heard about that we need fund for our startups, and I need to build a startup for which I need some funds. So that's something very strategic. Hi, Maisha, and that's very strategic that you need to bring to your organizations if you have any dream that I need to start a startup in my community. So that's what I work for. I work to develop business. I work to bring the funds to the technology that can bridge the gap between the social needs and the technological advancements that have been happening over the world. And I want to take a moment to share my screen so that I can go through one by one what I want to discuss about your innovation lab. So give me a moment. I'm sharing my screen. Yep. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, so the title I want to address is social engineering with solving problems with technology. So what does it mean? What does it mean by social engineering? So when I was in your age, one thing I had was my table and a lot of books that I had to read on. But often what kept in my mind was to solve the problems I have throughout the country, throughout the world. And many of the problems always kept hanging in my head that why these problems persist? Why don't we solve them? Why people are standing there to not solving these issues? So this what kept my mind in, and I think that driven me to this type of career that I need to bring some projects that can bring the money in, the expertise, and the actions, required actions to solve these problems. So that's how I called it social engineering. And I bridged this, my social science knowledge and my business studies knowledge, along with the technology that we have in place throughout the world in my career. So let's dive on to recognize you, particularly the people who are in the audience section, to recognize you as the key leader of socializing this technology, the Gen Z and Gen Alpha. When I was talking with Hallie about this program, I asked that who is the target audience? What's their age? And she told me that they are between 13 years old to 26-year-old. So I was like crazy. Oh, wow, what an audience that I will be talking to, because when you will be like old like me, and you will not often see the cheerful people like you, because we are all backed up in our office and we can't get to see you people, and you are totally amazing. And I personally want to thank Gen Z and Gen Alpha, what you are in here, because you have brought an incredible empathetic and emotional intelligence into this world. And the whole workplace out there, whole project system are now transforming thinking of you, because you are so empathetic and you are so very much thoughtful about people's emotional well-being and mental health, that now the working places are now rebuilding their system so that they can accommodate you in future in their workplace, which is really, really great. And you are the most key leaders in socializing technology because of your fresh perspectives, innovative ideas, and just what I say, that when I was at your age, I was often thinking about the problems, and I'm sure that you do the same, and you are the most innovative thinkers of thinking of these problems, because when people like me get to the 30 years old or 40 years old, they often forget what their dream was back then, teenagers' life. And I often think that only if I could think like that once again when I was 13 years old or 14 years old, because I was so much innovative back then. And you're also the digital natives. You have born in and you have brought in this digital evolution and digital solutions. So you are very much adopted in all the systems, and you can be the advocate of environmental and social justice. Now, why women particularly? Why we are talking about women in STEM? Because women are the driver of care economy. Have you heard about care economy before? I was graduating in gender studies in my undergraduate school in University of Dhaka, and care economy is something that our mothers do at our home, that our caregivers do at our home, and we do for our children, for our elders, for many other people. What care we do, that is care economy. And it has a huge, huge contributions in your GDP, in global economy, and everywhere. So we are women, being women, we have the most unique experience and insights about the social ideas and social science. And we know what people need, what our children need, what our elders need. And being particularly women from Bangladesh, we know that how many problems Bangladesh women can face in transportation, in roads, in schools, in academy, in office, and everywhere. So we are the key potential human that can bring the problems that we care to address with technology and with innovations. So what my journey to the STEM project? So when I was back in ATEC for the last 3 years, I worked on clean cooking. Clean cooking is something that I never heard before. When I was in school, when I was university, no one taught me before that clean cooking exists. So 3.2 million people globally die annually because of clean cooking. What is clean cooking? I'd seen my grandmother cooking with wood fuel. You have seen a lot in our rural community that they cook with wood fuel, they cook with coals and other things. They don't have gas stove or electrical stoves like us. So that's something the fuel that they use, the black carbon that emitted from that actually killed 3.2 million people annually by respiratory problem, by heart problems. They got all this affected by this black smokes. So I worked for innovative IoT technology for clean cooking, because the stove you see here, it is IoT embedded, which is Internet of Things. So it is a normal electric cooking, but it can bring the real-time data from this stove. It has an inserted GSM SIM card, and it has the real-time connectivity, and it can transfer back to our system that can bring the usage of that when the woman is cooking, how much time she's cooking. Now, why we need this technology in place? Because many women, like more than 60% women in our country, in Bangladesh, do not afford to get electric cooking like this. They use wood fuel for their cooking. So we need some leveraging points, some leveraging funding so that they can afford this technology in place. So we had generated this idea that we will be having carbon credit projects from this one. So what is carbon credit? So when you have some technology that is now reducing the emissions that it had before this technology happened, you generate the carbon credits out of it, because you are reducing the carbon emissions from that, and you have some savings, some carbon credits from this stove. So when you have this GSM connectivity with this one, this IoT embeddedness, you are getting the real-time data for this carbon credit that makes it more credible to the carbon credit buyers out in environmental sectors. So you're leveraging this data to analyzing this, developing things. And I had worked for the developing the metered methodology for carbon credit, which was the first thing in the history in gold standard, because we had registered this project under gold standard. And this was amazing to work with. And I developed and brought fund from GSMA and Danida projects in Bangladesh, Cambodia, Nepal, and Rwanda to bring this stove to the rural women who cannot afford it otherwise. So that's what my journey was in STEM projects. And if I can bring that, what pathways you can have in diversified careers in development sector from STEM is you can be a project developer, you already know that, in scientist, environmentalist, and there are so many ways you can contribute in development sector like United Nations, international NGOs, and in other sectors. So what my personal suggestions is, start from now. Find solutions in a strategic way, in clear communication with your peers, with the people you work with the friends you have, and don't bother about your background. I didn't come from a science background. I came from pure business studies, and then it was social science background. Now I'm working on the technology, bringing into the people's life, and I'm also working on environmental science with the people who having PhD degree out there in gold standard, in some other organizations. So don't bother about your background, pursue the education and the courses you need to bring your career in the STEM fields, and reach out the mentors and professionals you need, because I have been in a mentorship program for the last 2 years. I was a mentee first, then I became mentor, and it helped me a lot to be a person in clean cooking, to contribute more in this sector. And what I can suggest, that start work on your dream from right now. Don't wait for completing your graduation. Don't wait for having a doctor title in front of your name. Don't wait for that. You have the finest knowledge right now in your head to bring that to the people, to bring this in this community, in this world. So start working on that. You have enough knowledge in your head, as long as you have the passion to solve that problem and make the STEM accessible to all. Do not make it so rigid, like the scientist in a lab coat and something like that. It's not like that. STEM should be accessible to all. STEM should be in everywhere. You should facilitate this technological development. You be a scientist or a project developer or a researcher, you need to make it as accessible as possible to the people from all over the world, from the people who live in rural community, from the people who cannot afford such technology. You need to make them affordable and make the STEM knowledge accessible to all kinds of fields, that people from all other fields can also exercise this strategic way of technology. So I mentioned that I had this mentorship with Women in Clean Cooking that actually brought me here to discuss things with you. And I have been in Ghana and in Cambodia for working on that, and also in Rwanda. And yeah, that's all my picture from Cambodia as well. So, and last thing but not least, make things happen with a team. If you have done this alone, you haven't done anything. This is not the thing you've done. If you do it with a team, with a group work, then you have accomplished something. So my last piece of advice is make things happen with a team. Thank you very much. It's my honor to be here with you. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer anything you would like to ask.
Thank you so much, Monica. I feel like there were so many practical tips that I want to take and use in my life. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I know I saw one question from Anusha, which was, what was your favorite moment in your journey where you really realized your impact?
Oh, that's a great question, because when I was developing these projects with GSMA for bringing this electric stove to the women in urban areas, it was a great moment, because we had developed the project. We identified the problem and what the problem is. So I identified a different community that need this technology. Who is that? The people who work in our homes or work in garment sectors, they live in urban slums. I definitely know that you know what urban slums is. And in urban slum, they have only one kitchen for 10 to 15 families. They live in like that. They do not have one kitchen for one family. So they need to share the kitchen with 15 families. And the women who work in home, houses and garments, they need to line up for hours to bring that cooking happen in their home. So we made this project in a way that they can actually work with that stove on time being, they can punch the card and they will have their time allocated for that stoves. And many people at the same time can use that stove without being lining up in there and without any conflict with this energy, without cost minimizing and everything. So that's unique solutions when I brought in with this project. I really saw that this impact is real and how impactful a project can be in practical way. Thank you for this question.
Thank you. And just one more. What challenges did you face during your clean cooking journey?
Well, a fundraiser is always a very challenging journey. A fundraiser always face problems in bringing the solutions in actual ground, because there are a lot of solutions out there, but you cannot bring all of them, or if you do not have a strategic and feasible way to bring in. So I had a lot of projects when I was developing, when my team members who will be implementing that in the ground, they will say, oh no, it's impossible to do. It's not feasible. It cannot be worked and something like that. So you need clean communication style when you do everything. If you want to make things happen what you want, you need to have clear communication. And one tip I can give, that let people know when you have clear communication, as minimal information as it can be. If you give more information that is needed than that is needed in a situation, you'll make things complicated. So don't make things complicated. If you want to make things happen, just ensure that the people you are talking with, what information they need, try to understand that what information they will be convinced with, they need that. Give him or her exactly what information they can process, they can communicate with. If you give them more than that, it will be complicated. If you give them less than that, they will not understand what you want. So this communication, strategic communication, is very, very important when you have any challenging moments in your life.
And there was one more question from one of our Girl Up Bangladesh leaders that was too good. So Shanam asks, what does the future of clean cooking in Bangladesh look like?
I see a lot of potentials in Bangladesh, because the projects that I brought in, it's been now implemented by ATEC and ID, and it is more than like $5 million projects, and they now see to bring the solutions for like 50,000 women within next 1 year. So it's now happening with 2 organizations, and there are a lot more organizations who are now working in. So what potentials I see of clean cooking in Bangladesh? I see that it will bring more carbon credits into this country, which is really, really great, because carbon credit is part of blockchain. You know that this blockchain cryptocurrency is the future of many financial and fintechs and many other things. So when you bring these carbon credits in place in the funding, and it will be really great for Bangladesh to open up much more like green bonds, social bonds, carbon credit tracker, blockchains, and many other things. So it will be great. And at the same time, it will bring the solutions to the people who actually need it.
Thank you for sharing that, Monica. I'm really happy that we can end on that hopeful note. Thank you so much again for chatting with us.
Thank you for having me, Helen.
And sharing your knowledge.
Yep.
All right. With that, we will go to our STEM Solutions Lab. And I know we are nearing the end of the event. So with that in mind, I'm going to do just a quick overview of one of the ways that we can look at how we want to solve challenges in our communities. So I'll share that information in just a moment. And then our Girl Up Bangladesh leaders are going to lead us through the breakout room discussions again. I'll ask that we talk for about 12 to 15 minutes, so a little bit on the shorter side than what we were planning. That way, folks can make sure that they get to attend the whole event. So let me share my screen really quickly. All right, so now that we just heard from Monica, we've thought about our communities and we've thought about what STEM can be used for to enact social change. Something I want you to think about, and folks who attended YSI, this will look familiar to you, is how can we put our goal, our vision, and how can we really write it down and make it into actionable steps? So one way you can do that is by creating a SMART goal. And that just stands for a few different words. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Let me know in the chat if you've ever used one before. I think they're really helpful. And so one example of what that might look like, and then we'll head into our breakout rooms, is let's say I wanted to go climb a mountain. I don't think I'm going to do that anytime soon, but let's say it's a goal of mine. And so what I want to do is make it a SMART goal. I want it to be specific. So I want to name what mountain exactly do I want to go climb. So that way I have it in my brain. I want to make it measurable. So am I going to climb one mountain? Am I going to climb 3 mountains? I don't think 3, but I think 1. Is it attainable? So is this something I can do? You know, have I done it before? Is it something that maybe I need to make a easier or a smaller goal first and then build my way up? Is it relevant? Is this something that I really, you know, want to see change in my life? Is this an important goal to me? And then is it time-based? So am I telling myself, oh, eventually I'll do this? Or am I telling myself, I'm going to do this year, or maybe I'm going to do this within 3 months? And so think about this SMART breakdown as you imagine your community, you think about some challenges in your community, and you think about how you might be able to solve them. Maybe you use biotechnology that we've talked about. Maybe you use clean cooking. Maybe you use quantum computing. There's a lot of different ways that we can solve challenges in our communities. It can be very simple. It can be huge, but let's use that SMART goal framework to do it. So with that, we are going to break into our Solutions Lab breakout rooms, the same ones that we were in previously. And a reminder that if you want to speak Bengali, just ignore the breakout room invitation and stay right here in the main room. If you want to speak English, click and say, yes, I'll go to the breakout room. All the breakout rooms will be in English. The main room will be Bengali speaking. All right. Ali is going to start breaking us off into our breakout rooms, and let's chat for about 12 to 15 minutes, and I'll let you all know when we're getting close to coming back. All right. See you soon, everyone. Wonderful. Welcome back, everyone. Just a final few things as we wrap up. I hope you all had a good time today, got to connect with some people, learn some things. I certainly feel like I did. So all we've got left is to do our post-event survey. Just take a moment to fill this out. I will also put the link in the chat. So let me drop that in the chat. Just take a minute to fill this out. Again, to get your certification for attending the event, we will look for that post-survey completion. So let me, all right. So you can scan the QR code or click the link in the chat and just finish that super quickly. I've got a few notes and then we will be done for the day. You'll get your certification. You'll be an honorary Girl Up Bangladesh member. We've got it all going on. Okay. I'm so glad to hear that. Can I send the link? Yep, let me put the survey link one more time in the chat. But I'm so glad to hear you learned a lot. I also feel like I learned a ton. The speakers were just excellent. And that is all thanks to Girl Up Bangladesh and their planning. So as we fill out that survey, again, the link is in the chat. So the survey, this is for if you want to get your certificate for attending the event, just make sure you fill out this survey. You can scan it or click the link in the chat, and I will email you all the certificate. So that will be coming your way this weekend or on Monday. Just a few things to keep in mind. So keep working on that survey if you've still got it open. As a reminder, we have some really fun, free online classes that you can join at any time, including our Step Up for STEAM course, which is all about how to host an event like this one. So I'm going to put the link for that in the chat. Check that out when you get a chance. We also will have project awards opening soon. Stay tuned for this. We'll put an update on our Instagram. That's the best way to find out. We'll also put an update on the Girl Up community, which is that link I just put in the chat. So stay tuned. These are grants for similar projects like we imagined today. If you thought of something as a solution in your community, you can apply for a grant and get funding to actually enact that solution. So it's a really, really cool opportunity. And keep an eye out on our Instagram because it'll likely open up soon. You'll get some information soon. Okay, and with that, that is all I have. I just want to say congratulations to Girl Up Bangladesh for doing such an excellent job leading us all today. If you have a chance to say thank you to Girl Up Bangladesh in the chat, please do. But thank you all for being here. I will send you your certificates and an email, as well as some follow-up information, the recording as well, the slides, so you have all of that. And I will send the photos as well. So we'll have those fun group photos we took. And I'll stay on for a few minutes if anybody has questions, but otherwise, thank you all so much for joining, and I hope to see you again soon.